that's how we started this whole thing. Was we started it for our son, as you well know, and most people who know our story. And she was just saying about her daughter who had lupus and tried everything and was a shell of herself, and she was fighting back tears to, say thank you for what this product did for her family. And so it's so special that we get to see these things.
Welcome to the Miracle Plant Podcast, the show that inspires, promotes, and gives you a daily dose of inspiration from the people who have used cannabis to change their lives in extraordinary ways. Here's your host, Justin Benton.
Hey, welcome back to the Miracle Plant Podcast. Do we have a special episode for you? We did a 3-day Take Control of Your Health Summit. Had some of the coolest speakers, some of the greatest insights, tools, and accountability community to make sure that you take control of your health. Today, I want you to listen to the section that we did on exercise with Dan the Man, Dan Humiston.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Take Control of Your Health Summit. I hope you had a nice lunch, made some good, healthy choices. We're back. Dan's here, and Dan is a co-host on the Miracle Plant podcast. He actually has a platform called PodConX, which hosts dozens of cannabis and hemp-related podcasts. Dan has been in the cannabis and hemp space for many years and is quite the expert. And in fact, his daughter and him and I were just talking about us having incredible success helping people find jobs within the cannabis space. And we're bringing Dan on because he's a rugged outdoorsman who lives out in Colorado most of the time. He's stayed fit and trim and has some secrets to share with us. And I think it kind of got started back with sports. But Dan, let's tell our audience a little bit about your background, a little bit your secrets as we kick off this second pillar to the 5 pillars of health with exercise. What's going on, Dan?
Well, Justin, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited that you put this together. It's a huge undertaking what you've accomplished. And I think anybody that's listening to this or will be listening to this is really going to benefit from this, because let's face it, without your health, you don't have anything. Think about it, you can have all the money in the world, but if you have a sore throat, all you're thinking about is, how do I get rid of this sore throat? So health is everything. And I think it's been a part of my life. Staying fit, it's been a part of my life as far back as I can remember. And in preparing to talk about this today, I was thinking what a broad topic this is. And the people that we're going to be talking to have so many different levels of experience. I thought maybe what I would just give everybody a little insight as to how I've maintained or stayed fit for, it's been 50 years. When I go back, I think about it for 50 years, what I've basically been doing pretty much the same thing to stay fit. And it kind of revolves around sports. And I go back to the summer of 1971 is when I joined my first Little League baseball team. And from that point on, whether it was, I learned how to swim on a swim team, I learned how to ski on a ski team, golf, tennis, basketball, we're all in summer golf leagues when I was growing up. When I went to college, I got into weightlifting and I competed in powerlifting. And then out of college, I took up martial arts and joined a dojo, took up martial arts. And then I wanted to learn how to row. So I joined a rowing club and got on their crew team. And then that morphed into, eventually I got into cycling, and then that morphed into triathlons. And I started doing half Ironman. And then I did a full Ironman. And the one common thread, the secret to all this was practice. Every single one of those things involved practice, because you can't learn a new sport. You can't pick up anything new unless you're practicing. And you know what? Practice is like exercise disguised as fun. You're going there, you're meeting some friends, you got your teammates, you have a set time, you have to be someplace. It's not hard. It's fun. You're learning, and and all of a sudden you realize, hey, I'm staying fit. I'm learning something new. My brain's engaged. I'm active, and I'm engaged, and it's fun. And it's really been, if I think back, it's been the secret to my ability to stay fit pretty much my whole life.
That's awesome. What are some of the things you're doing these days? I know I can just imagine you, because I know you have a beautiful spot out there in Colorado in the woods, but I think you're back east right now. But what are you doing these days to stay fit, and what are the secrets?
Well, take a step back. As my kids got older, I actually got into coaching. So again, still a lot of practice. You got to show up for practice, and you're doing things with the kids to stay. And then I transitioned as my kids got into college, I moved out to Colorado, and I started as a ski instructor. I turned in my coaching hat and started teaching beginners how to make turns. And so if you've ever tried to teach somebody how to ski, how much work is involved, because geez, you turn around and you're like, oh my gosh, their skis are off and they're up the hill and they can't figure out how to get their skis on. So you got to take off your skis and climb up there and get them and get their skis back on. It's a lot of fun, but it is a lot of exercise. Now I'm still a member of a couple cycling clubs. So depending on the time of the year, I'm riding with my groups, and so that keeps me pretty active. And that's, again, it's practice. I don't want to show up for a ride with my friends and get dropped. So I want to make sure I'm staying fit. And when they're saying, well, Tuesday nights, we ride on Tuesdays at 6, or we ride at Saturday mornings at this time, and you got to be there. And so you build your schedule around it. And before they're holding you accountable, which is something I know you are a big proponent of, that is accountability. Being part of a group, being part of, no matter what it is, it makes you committed. It gives you that extra reason to be there. Unlike going to the gym. Yeah. I'm going to get in shape. I want to look good in the summer. Summer's a long way away. I can take tomorrow off. It's so easy to skip going to the gym. But it's a lot different when you're involved in a sport.
Absolutely. And I would be remiss to not mention, we're talking about sports here, and we're talking about your Buffalo Bills as we come up here with the NFL and the playoffs and the exciting. And I too grew up playing sports, and it was a different era. I grew up in the 70s, and kids played all sports you could get on the team for. And so that's just what you did. And so I played all sports: baseball, basketball, football, track, golf, a little bit of soccer, and what have you. And it was funny that in this new age that we live in, John Smoltz was talking. He's the baseball pitcher for the Braves, who's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
And all of these kids these days are having all these surgeries with their Tommy John surgeries, what they call it. And he said the reason why is kids aren't playing enough different sports, that they're becoming specialized in one sport, and they're putting too much tension into our body. Isn't meant to do a pitching motion over and over year round, these clubs and all these kinds of things. Whereas when you're playing all of these different sports, then you get a little bit better just conditioning, and one thing can bleed into another one and things like that. But talk to me about team sports. I think it's so important. Like you're talking about being a part of a team and accountability. I loved team sports. I loved baseball. And I still do, and football, but being a part of a team and how that can help keep you going and all that good stuff.
I think that's the key. Going back to high school, I lettered 11 to 12 seasons. And in between that, I played in the basketball leagues and I played in a basketball league in the summer and a little league baseball in the summer. And I was on a ski team in the winter on top of wrestling. So if I was jumping from practice to practice to practice, I mean, it was just a way of life. And I think as adults, we think, well, that was in the past. That's something that we did in the past. But the reality is there's more opportunity today to join these clubs, and these clubs love newbies. They love a newbie because they get a chance to be a big shot. They get a chance to tell you Hey, here's how you're supposed to be running. Let me show you if you join a running club, here's how you do it. They teach you how to do it. They love newbies. You want to join a triathlon club, want to join a swim club, they don't care that you don't have any experience. They actually prefer you not to have any experience because they want to learn it the right way. And so that's where I think right now, I think people, if you take advantage of some of these, I'll give you an example. Our family we were golf crazy. My dad played golf every day or every weekend, as long as I can remember. And then he came home and watched golf. And my mom would complain the whole time. My dad passed away. My mom picked up golf. Never played before at all. She plays now 5 days a week. She's in 2 leagues. She just had her second hole in one, which is incredible for somebody that's almost 80. She had her second hole in one. It's not about playing golf. It's about being outside, the exercise, being with friends, having some laughs. And guess what? It makes you more fit. You feel better. And that's what it's about. And if she can do it at 75, she would be so mad at my dad for playing golf every weekend. And now she can't wait to get on the links. And that's the way. There are just some, you said, I know there's like adult soccer leagues, there's adult everything, flag football leagues, you name it, you can find something. Kickball leagues, there's something for everybody. And you don't have to have any experience. In fact, it's more fun if you don't, and it's probably better for you because you engage your brain. You're learning something new. And when you learn something new, your entire body's involved then, because it's just so rewarding. I'm enthusiastic about it because I've just watched so many people, especially with skiing, when I watch people that have never, ever done it before, and they make their first turns and they're getting down the hill, they're just so proud of themselves. They feel so good. It's overall, this aura is around them that you just can see it's positive. It's just nothing but positive.
Absolutely. Well, I can't go and let that comment about golf slide, because they say if you want to make a change in your life, the fastest way to change is through your identity. And I identify as a golfer. And so, I started when I was around 12, and it's like you said, it's the camaraderie. And it's my favorite office on the planet. And my wife and I and my kids, we've been able to travel. And if you go, there's some pretty beautiful golf courses out there all over the world, and you get to travel and you get to do things. As far as the fitness part of golf is that if you walk about 10 miles. And so I have a really light bag. I haven't been golfing as much as I should. I've been, I guess, busy. But like literally, I put a thing on my calendar, like at 10 o'clock on Fridays. It's every Friday, go hit balls. I have to remind myself.
Yeah.
Getting off my mission to heal the world. But another thing you can do, like you talk about, is walk. You can walk golf courses. And man, you want to lose some weight, go skip the golf cart, grab they call it a Sunday bag, which is a smaller bag, which you can either have fewer clubs or all of your clubs in a smaller bag, and go walk. They also have, you don't have to carry them on your shoulder. They have these incredible walker push carts that are electronic now.
Yeah.
You can get for nicer ones for like $300-400 that are actually power. And there's a couple even have remotes and all those kinds of things. But it's all about, like you said, it's about finding things that you actually enjoy doing. You actually spend time. And that's another thing with golf, is you get to spend time with your family and your friends and your business associates. And at the same time, you're getting exercise.
Yeah.
We all know we all need. So, and that's another one to get, if you were, talking about someone on your case with your mom and dad about golfing all the time. He's like, honey, I'm walking, I'm getting in my 10 miles, I'm getting my 10,000 steps. So yeah, I couldn't let the golf comment slide without mentioning that. But you're so right that just finding things to do that you actually have fun, and that accountability and the camaraderie and the family and all of that, I think that's just awesome.
And I'll even add to that. Again, my mom's closing in on 80 and took it up probably when she was 75. Okay. So it hasn't been playing super long, but she'll go to me. When I go visit her, she'll be, Dan, can we go can you film me? I want to go to the range and hit some balls. And I want you to. So, I mean, practice. She wants to go to the range and just hit balls. Now she's turning, she's moving. It's not the hardest workout ever, but it's a lot more exercise than my grandparents. I remember my grandparents when they were in their late 70s and early 80s. I mean, this is the kind of things that no matter how old you are, you can move. And the easiest way, I think the easiest way to do it is to pick up some sport. I recommend picking something that you never thought you'd do before. If one of those jump on one of those dragon boat racers and just sit out on the ocean and with an oar, it doesn't matter what you do. People will want you to join because they need more people joining, and you'll be so happy, and you'll make new friends. You'll be held accountable, and guess what? You're going to be in a lot better shape.
Absolutely. And I know, like my mom, who unfortunately is a little under the weather and isn't able to join us today, but she'll be on future ones. And my mom, Janet Well, from the podcast. But she picked up a new one, and a couple of new things. There's pickleball and yoga with Laura, who was on earlier on. So pickleball has been quite a trend. It's kind of like a combination between ping pong and tennis. So they cut down the tennis courts and they play pickleball with 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 and some good.
I've been playing a lot of pickleball. Yep.
Let's hear about it. Let's hear about it.
It's fun. It's super fun. It's fast. I mean, I grew up playing tennis, and a lot of similarities, except it's way easier on their joints. You don't move nearly as much. Some way more strategy, a lot of spin on the ball, a lot more like you said, like ping pong. Just quick reactions. You're just moving really quickly, and it's another great workout, and it's designed for people although the kids are killing it now, the younger people are getting into it and are just dominating in their age group. But there are leagues for 70-year-olds, there's leagues for 100-year-olds. I mean, there's leagues for everybody. Again, super easy to get into it because they break you down based on skill level. So you start off as a I don't know what it is. I think it's like a 2 or something, and then you work up to 3 and a 4, 3.5, and work your way up depending on your skill level. But you're only playing with other people that are beginners or other people that are just advanced beginners, and that's fun because you get a chance to enjoy yourself, have a little competitiveness, and then you get some exercise.
Heck yeah! No, I played it once or twice, and it's fun. And again, it's a new way to get outside. You can get the camaraderie, and you can get the competitive juices going. Out there that are competitive. For better or worse, I'm definitely one of those competitive people. In fact, I'm so competitive that I realized I needed to stop keeping score on the golf course. And because I found myself out there, I was like, I'm not having fun, because you would be focused on the one hole or the bad shot or whatever that messed up your low 70s score that you were shooting for. And so and then that's what it came down to. It's like, look, I'm out here to be outside, get fresh air, get some exercise, social components, business components. And if I'm not having fun being out here, then I need to go do something else. In fact, it was so funny. In my previous professional life, I was successful executive or whatever at sales and marketing. And I was successful enough that I didn't really have to be in the office. So I would take these men's country clubs. We'd have these like country club versus country club thing.
Sure.
These men's match play kind of thing. And so we would do these events, and I would get all serious, and I was a low single digit handicapper, and there was always some sandbaggers, which means you fluffed up your handicap so you could beat the guy head to head in golf. But I was never one of those. I was actually what's called a reverse handicap, a reverse sandbagger is what I called myself, and other people like me. They try to get their scores down so their handicap so low that looks good or whatever, like I'm a 4 or whatever, and then you go out and play head to head because that's how golf works. You can just each other's handicaps, and you get like a stroke on each hole or whatever to make it fair. Then you get smoked in these team plays, what they called it, things. But I found myself playing on these men's club events, these team play events, and it was so mentally like just encompassing and the competitive juices that I was like, no, I would rather be at the office. It's so competitive. So I know everyone has to find that balance between team plays, competitiveness, camaraderie. Find that sweet spot that really helps you make sure that you get out there and you're having fun. Because look, I know a lot of guys that I play golf with that shouldn't be playing golf. They just weren't having any fun. They were throwing their clubs, screaming, cussing. It's like, hey man, I always used to tell them, I said, how many times you practice a week? You know what I mean? And even the guys that played all the time sometimes didn't practice. It's like, or they played once a week in a golf league, which is another fun thing to do. Golf leagues it's like if you're playing once a week and you're not even practicing once a week or doing anything, and you're getting mad because you sliced one in the woods, you don't have the right to get mad. So, no. But I think that's wonderful. I assume you were probably in some golf leagues, man. Sounds like you did it all.
Well, I similar trajectory that you. I played a lot of scratch tournaments, and I live on a golf course, so I would hit balls in the morning on the way to work, and then I would go into sand traps at night or putt at night when I come home. And I seriously played at least 5 days a week and practiced every day. For years, and I had to quit when my kids got big enough. For a while, I would just at night, I'd take them out on the, right out my backyard is the green. So I'd bring them out there with some toys and I'd put them in the sand trap, and I would just work the green at night. But it got to a point where I couldn't practice anymore. And then I was only playing a few days a week. And so I was in that same track that you were in, where my handicap was way lower than where I was playing. And I knew I was never going to get, and it's so, I'm like, well, same with you, competitive, where to a point where all these people that I used to be able to have never could compete with me are all killing me now. And I just couldn't live with that. And I knew I never was going to get back to that level until I could make that commitment. So I guess this is kind of counter to what I was saying about just join a league and have fun. I think it's fun when you pick up a brand new sport, because you don't get to that level. When you're at that level, it's no fun anymore. That's when you need to quit. And that's, I did the same thing that you did, as I just walked away from it and picked up something else. And that's when I started rowing, because I'm like, I need a break. I called up the local rowing club and I said, hey, I want to join. And they said, sure, we need more men. I jumped on, they taught me how to row, and I ended up rowing in the World Masters when competing in the World's Masters and rowing. And like, I didn't have any idea how to row. If like 5 years later, I'm at the World Masters. So it's, all this stuff is, and I'm not an elite athlete. I'm more likely to win most improved than I am MVP, but I just love taking on new challenges and trying new sports. And I think that's been my secret. And I think if other people apply that same approach, they will be shocked how easy it is to stay healthy and fit.
Well, another thing that I wanted to bring up, and I know you had shared this before on a podcast, The Miracle Plant, is you were using the technology to monitor your sleep. Have you used technology to help you out with your fitness goals, or understanding resting heart rate or anything like that you've been able to kind of measure and see qualities of whether, in fact, if you slept better, maybe that's going to help, or obviously we talk about hydration and other things too.
Well, I think, yes, the short answer is yes. I think, but I can give you a longer answer, was when I was training for the Ironman, which is, it's about a year worth of training. Really, to do it right. And I was coming off a really bad injury. So I had a coach, and we used a lot of tech for my training, and I learned a lot of the techniques that some of the more elite athletes use, as far as endurance athletes use to get in shape. And most of my training was based off of heart rate and how to improve your VO2 max and which eventually will affect your resting heart rate, which will eventually affect just about everything. All these things were built into my training program, and you could just see the progression from day one to the race time. And a lot of the things that I'll talk about, training with a heart rate monitor, is a real easy way for people that kind of get to that next level. Like you're just beyond a beginner, but now you want to start, you're thinking about, how do I incorporate a heart rate monitor into my training? There's a lot to be learned. And a lot of it is, there's a lot of misconceptions about, especially endurance training, when it comes to where your heart rate should be and what your goals should be during the exercise program. And more times than not, people fail in one of two places when it comes to training. When it comes to training, either A, they're not training hard enough, or B, they're training too hard. And I'll explain why. You would say, well, geez, why is it not good to train hard all the time? Well, for one, you can't recover if you're training hard all the time. the second thing is there's a lot of benefit that comes from training at what feels like not a really hard threshold. And that's a lot of people have a hard time allowing themselves to train at that level, because they're like, oh, geez, if I'm going to work out, I might as well get something out of this. And what they don't realize is that a lot of that time is way more effective than in a higher heart rate. And so, I mean, that's just really, really scratching the surface. I mean, I could talk for days about some of the things that I've done with heart rate, learning about how different things that have worked for me, things that have improved in my fitness and made me better at what I was doing. But I think technology is going to be the future of athletics and of training, because there's just so much information now available, and the devices can extract that information, and you can and then consolidate it and help you use it to improve or to overcome some mistakes or get through those plateaus.
Absolutely. Well, I somehow got myself off of video, so you might have to let me make me the host again if you click on my name over there. But technology, I think, has come so far, and as far as athletics go, and we see it now with all of these elite athletes in the NFL and the NBA. And I think I read somewhere that LeBron James spends $1 million a year on his fitness. His health and fitness. And so, I mean, we're talking the hyperbaric chambers, we're talking all the exercise equipment, and there's been some pretty great breakthroughs, even for everyday folk. Have you had much experience with, like, for example, we got a Peloton before this whole thing went on. And so obviously doing the real thing, if you can, going for a real bike ride like you do is the best thing, even though for me it feels a little dangerous sometimes with cars. But if you have a place that doesn't have, you don't have to be next to cars, that would be ideal. But I know the Peloton was huge for us. We fortunately got it before everything happened in March of 2020. And it was a savior. I mean, and they have lots of ways to keep you engaged in the community and your favorite, like, coach or trainer, and they have music and you cheer each other's on. So have you had much experience with a Peloton or any kind of indoor cool technology that you've seen over the years?
No, I've never used the Peloton. I know of it, and my daughter has one, and but I've never used it, but I know that people, again, it's kind of that community aspect of the Peloton which makes it so great, because like you said, there's a time, there's your favorite instructor. They're tapping into the community idea of a team sport. And that's kind of what the thesis of what we've been talking about pretty much this whole episode is, that by being part of a community, by being part of a team, the Peloton instructors, I've watched enough of them. They're saying, let's do this. They're teaching you as you're going. It's not just about, let's just pedal as hard as we can. They're saying, okay, let's bring our heart rate down. We're going to bring it down. We're going to bring it down. Now it's going to bring it back up. And they're teaching you as you go. And so your brain's engaged. It's not like just dead out, flat out. I'm just going to, exhaust myself here. I'm thinking, I'm trying to figure this out. I've even watched them where they're working on your pedaling technique and making sure you're pulling up on the upstroke. And a lot of things that it's all part. I look at that as like practice. It's like another form of practice. And that's really the key to staying, I think, life of fit for life, I think, is much easier when you're part of a community, whether it's a Peloton community or, I mean, I'm on this community, I got this app called Strava. Talk about addictive. Strava tracks, I know what all my buddies are doing. I know what everybody does all the time. They know what I'm doing. And so it's like, you're like, I go out on a ride by myself, keep track with Strava. And I'm hearing from my friends the next day, oh my gosh, you went out. Why didn't you call me? Because I didn't want to. I wanted to go by myself. I needed to get this in by myself. But yeah, that's just one other example of technology that, I've incorporated into making my exercise routine and my training and my practice much more fun and much more efficient and productive.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love technology, and I love how far we've come. I mean, it's crazy. There's these at work, these gyms that come out of the side of the wall, and they have all these, like, I mean, it's just there's really no excuse. Sorry, there just isn't any excuse for everybody not to figure out some way to get in. And all you really need to do, or really should do, is get 20 minutes of cardio or exercise every day. I mean, maybe you could do it every other day, but let's just make it some minimal requirements here. If you get 20 minutes of exercise in, and for some people that means just go for a walk.
Yeah.
In the morning, you are getting your heart rate up, you're getting your blood pumping, you're getting your joints moving, you're getting your metabolism jump started for the day, which is usually why it's recommended, if you can, to get that exercise in the morning. Some people are night owls and they can do it at night, but or their routines or their schedules don't necessarily allow for it. But yeah, I mean, there's really no excuses anymore. And part of the silver lining of what we went through as a species over the last 2 years is that it made us become more creative with figuring out ways to do things like Peloton, or like the golfing industry. Boom. So I have this little golf course that I play out up here called the Levis Links, and it was my speakeasy. I mean, I could come on anytime. They all loved me. They let me play for free or whatever, because I took care of everybody down there. And then all of a sudden, they shut the golf courses down, outdoor golf courses in the beginning.
Oh, no.
So ridiculous. And so I still snuck on just because of spite. I was like, no, you're not stopping me from golfing. They didn't mow the grass much anymore, but I still rolled the putts on big shaggy greens because I'm like, this is so stupid.
Yeah.
Where my zen would be, I would go to a putting green. That's my other office, and just roll putts and like zen out, and maybe listen to the podcast or music and zen out. And so when they shut it down, it was crazy to me. And then they finally opened it, and they had all these weird rules and stuff. But when they opened it, the golf industry was booming. I mean, it went up big time. It was one of the industries that had a huge uptick because people had to figure out things that they could do, and that because they weren't going to go to the gyms are shut down, all those kinds of things. And so there were new ways. And I can only imagine, and you can speak to this, that the cycling industry and the bicycle industry had a huge spike too.
And what happened like almost simultaneous to that was the emergence of the electronic bikes.
Yeah.
And that opened the door for so many people to try it out, because now you have this battery assisted bike that it's, I mean, I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible, because, I'm still kind of not on board with it yet, because it's frustrating when I'm riding along and I'm looking at this guy on a mountain bike who's riding right with me. I'm like, I can't lose this guy. And then I realize that he's on an electric bike. But the reality is, like, mountain biking is just not for everybody, because climbing a mountain on a bicycle is not easy. And if you're not fit, you just can't jump into it. But with the battery assisted, now it opens the door for everybody. Or being in a group ride and trying to stay with the person in front of you is not easy. These electronic, with these new bikes, people they can stay in, they can join, I caution people, if your bike handling skills are not great, you don't want a piece of equipment that can get you up to like 28 miles an hour, because I think that might be beyond your skill level. But it's a real good way to get into cycling. And I know that right after the pandemic, you couldn't buy a bike. They were so expensive and they were so back ordered. It was insane how hard it was to find a bike.
So, and speaking kind of that whole pandemic indoor kind of thing, are you still out in Buffalo, or where are you right now?
I'm in Buffalo, unfortunately, heading back to Colorado. I shouldn't say unfortunately, but the reason I'm heading back to Colorado is not for a great reason. I'm having surgery in February. I'm having my hip replaced. So I'm sitting on the IR right now until February, when I have my hip replaced.
You can't lather enough CBD oil on there and gobble up enough to keep that surgery from happening. You know what they say? It's like haircuts don't hang around barbers. You don't want surgery. Don't hang around surgeons.
Oh, I've been putting it off for a long time. I had this is probably not going to bode well for this conversation, but I had a bad bicycle crash about 10 years ago. And they said at the time that they rebuilt both my hips, but they said at the time that I probably wouldn't get more than 10 years out of them. And my one hip, I got hit by a car on my bike a couple of years ago and had to have that hip replaced. And I probably should have had them both done at the same time. But so now it's affecting my skiing. It's affecting my bike riding and everything else I do. So I committed to doing it. And unfortunately, the date got moved. I was supposed to have it done already, but the date got moved. So, and that's why I just stayed in Buffalo because I didn't want to be staring at a mountain knowing that I couldn't go up there and ski.
Yeah. Well, I mean, are you able to do any exercise right now? Because I know a lot of people struggle with, because I grew up in the Midwest and I know that white stuff and the snow and the weather.
Yeah.
Like literally the day I graduated, I was gone. The car was packed and I was out of there. But what are you doing to stay fit, or what would you do to stay fit if you weren't on the shelf?
I'm still able to walk. I can still walk as long as I don't walk uphill hurts. But as long as I'm not going uphill, I'm pretty good. So every morning I go for a walk, and then I've been lightweight training, but nothing serious. And I have an exercise bike, and I have my bike on what's called a trainer. So it's your bike, but it's on like I don't even know how to explain it, but you take your back wheel off and you plug it in. And so you just spin on it. It's like an exercise, turn your bike into an exercise bike. So I sit on my bike sometimes at night, just a lot of times. I used to do a lot of phone calls sitting on my exercise, on my bike and on my trainer. And now that we're using video, I can't get away with doing that anymore.
Yeah. A little more tricky, a little more difficult. Well, I had this image in my mind of when you're back at it and back to 100%, that it's kind of like that. Was it Rocky 5? Which one was the Russia one? Was that 3 or
4?
4. And that like you're out there in Buffalo running around with logs and running in the snow up hills to try and stay fit, because there's, when it's cold as hell outside, I mean, it's tough to want to go out there and get some exercise in. Did you have any fun stories of working out outside in the bitter cold of Buffalo, New York?
Yeah. I mean, well, I was always a skier. So I always look forward to winter because it was ski season. But I mean, I can remember, you can probably relate to this, but I remember coming home from like wrestling practice, and you take a shower before you leave wrestling practice, and you get off the bus, and the bus would drop you off at the end of the street. You get off the bus and you walk home, and you get home and there's ice in your hair because your hair's still wet from, back when I had hair. I don't have that problem anymore, but but that's just the drill. That's what you get when you're, but it makes us a lot tougher.
A rheumatologist at UCLA who is just begging me to put her on all these medications, and then you guys actually came recommended by a friend of ours, and that she's been on this since I think July.
Yeah.
And everyone that works here is so nice and so helpful, and she's a completely different person.
That's
so
awesome.
I know I'm fighting my tears right now because it's just like, it's so insane. She's 17. It's her senior year of high school. She couldn't get out of bed. It'd take her 15 minutes she'd have to move from side to side, slowly get out of bed, and then she'd start crying. And now she doesn't do that. And it's all because of this.
It's awesome.
So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. So how much do I owe you?
That's on us this round.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah, you bet.
Oh my gosh.
Thanks so much.
No, thank you guys so much.
Well, we love hearing those stories, and we obviously developed it for our son, with autism and autoimmune.
Yes.
So
yes.
So cool.
Well, I wish the best to your son.
Yes.
So I know that he's doing everything that I read.
Yeah.
I heard he's doing great. Or I read he's doing great.
Yes.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You betcha. And that other one's Boost, because we're all out of the Alleviate X. The Boost has CBG in it. So that one's been just came out with huge research showing that it helps with COVID, and we already knew it. It's incredible.
So we'll just give her a little bit of energy.
Yeah, that's more of an energy one.
Energy one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You betcha. Thanks for popping in. You bet. Take care. So I didn't know if you guys could see that or not, but
that was great. Yeah.
She was hitting us up on chat, and I'm actually in our store in Ventura, so I had to like put a sign out, and my mom's under the weather, and it's just been wild around here. But did you see her or hear her at all when she was talking?
Oh yeah, I could hear the whole thing. We saw her and could hear the whole thing.
Oh, good. Because we get those kinds of stories all the time. And that's how we started this whole thing. Was we started it for our son, as you well know, and most people who know our story. And she was just saying about her daughter who had lupus and tried everything and was a shell of herself. And she was fighting back tears to, say thank you for what this product did for her family. And so it's so special that we get to see these things. And I know you, Dan, that you helped us when I reached out to you over a year ago and just said, hey man, I got this calling. I know that I shouldn't be the only person hearing these stories. I shouldn't be, and I never wanted to. And when the world shut down and the Facebooks of the world wouldn't let us advertise, wouldn't let us share these stories, I came to you and said, Dan, I need compelled to start a podcast. I'd been on a bunch of podcasts, and you had sent out an email about starting a podcast. And that's what you do. I mean, that's how we know each other. And even when I reached out to you, there was this hesitation, because this is what people don't talk about or know in the CBD or the hemp or the cannabis space, is that you get denied and you get shot down and you get bank accounts closed and you get business licenses rejected and you get all kinds of pushback, and you feel like you're a second class citizen, like you're not worthy. And I remember reaching out to you and being like, I was even afraid to share the idea that I had, because there's this world that we live in the United States, unfortunately, that and we've seen more and more of it. And I don't want to go into the dark side of the conversation, but when I reached out to you and said, hey man, I get to hear stories like that every single week, multiple times a week. And it's beautiful what this plant can do. And so I called you up and said, hey, Dan, I got an idea. I want to start a podcast. I had Miracle Plant on the back burner. It was something that we were working with some branding experts on. I said, I've already got a logo. I got a name. Yeah. You can see over my shoulder here. And I said, what do you think about doing a podcast for sharing these Miracle Plant stories? And you said, yeah, man, let's do it. So just again, thanks for what you've done by putting a platform for families that's,
like they're like her. Exactly. That's who needs to hear this. And it's hard to get the word out to these people because there's so much censorship and there's so many barriers to entry. And I mean, podcasting is been a godsend for so many people because we can say whatever we want. And there's nobody telling us, oh, we're going to drop you. Like there's nobody out there saying, oh, Dan, if you don't get Justin's show off of your network, we're going to drop you. Because there's nobody that can drop me. We control this whole thing. And so, I mean, what did I sent you an email yesterday. Somebody had a question about one of the YouTube videos. And there was another one previous to that where they remember that young lady who had that kind of rare disease. She came on the show to tell us about
Dominique.
Mm-hmm. There was a person that mom was suffering from the exact same disease and wanted to know your name and the name. So they found us, and they found us because of the podcast. And if that one person, I don't know who it was, but if that one person's mom is healthy today because of that, everything we've done is worth it. Just that one person. And I know that there are hundreds of them, but just for that one person, for me, it's been worth the journey by far.
Yeah. And it's frustrating for me. And as obviously you and I are cut from the same cloth, that there's an overachieverness, if that's a word, and a competitiveness. And that can apply in sports and athletics, and that can also apply in business. And on the business side of things, for me, it's like, that story, what you just saw her walk in, and I don't know how much you heard, but she was sharing that her daughter had lupus and that the only thing that worked was this, and she just wanted to say thanks for giving me my daughter back, a healthy daughter. And that's all you want. That's all we wanted. And it's just like, why isn't it, we're being silenced, or we're being held back? And so because of your podcast and the competitiveness part of it is like, everyone needs to know this. And that's what our mission has been. It's like, fine, I am going to everything, all my effort has gone into this for the last 5 or so plus years, that when we started seeing these incredible stories, and lupus is no joke. That's a tough one that Western medicine can't crack, because you are what you eat, and your nutrition and your supplements and on all the things that we talk about and take control back of your health on this summit is all part of it. And so we're just going to keep doing these things, and we're going to keep having these summits and coming on these podcasts. And our goal is to reach 1 billion people by 2025, be it podcasts, be it YouTube videos, be it seeds, products, education, be it summits, be it participants. That is what we're all about, because people don't know. They don't know, and they don't know that there's another way. And this plant is the red pill. The plant is the red pill that gives you the opening to, oh my God, it helped my daughter with autoimmune disease, or it helped my mom with her knee, or whatever it was. Yeah. And it gives people hope that there's something that might actually work, and then they take control of their health. That's why this is called Take Control of Your Health Summit, because you're taking the power back and you're saying, what else can I do for myself, for my body, for my brain, for my family? And that's why we're here. So again, kudos to you, brother, for getting the podcast going and the platform. I mean, that's what you do. I mean, tell people about PodConX and what you do. So, because I know that you get new people all the time, and you've given a platform for the cannabis and hemp and CBD space to have podcasts and not being worried about having your account shut down like Facebook. Yeah.
Well, I will tell you a funny sidebar to that. We have a lot of shows, and we have a lot of new shows that are joining the network. And so I thought it was clever when I came up with the name, because my slogan was Connects Earth, because what we were doing is connecting everybody on Earth. So Connects Earth. But I thought PodConX would be PodConX. But it turns out that most people read it as PodConX. So it kind of backfired on me, but it still connects Earth. And that's what we're doing right now, is our goal, just like yours, we're just connecting everybody. And whether it's connecting the miracle plant with the people that desperately need to hear it, or it's connecting somebody that wants to learn how to get into cannabis, or it's connecting somebody that wants to learn about who knows what. It can't be censored. We can't censor anything. I'm a big boy. I can make decisions for myself. If I hear Justin speaking and I believe what you're saying, I'll do my own research. I'll make my own decisions. That should be our right. And that's what podcasting does. And that's why what you're doing has been so successful, is because you're talking from the heart. I just heard you go to that lady. How much do I owe you? You don't owe me anything. What you just gave me was worth, and you walk the walk. Like this is about getting to 1 billion people. And if it's one person at a time, you have enough energy that you can do it. So I'm just happy to help you along the journey, and someday say I knew him when.
Well, and like I said, you're definitely part of the journey, and whether you like it or not, we annexed you as a co-host.
I love it.
In the beginning, we needed your recording equipment, as you were, and always gracious with your time to set up wherever you were traveling to record it and edit it and cut it and splice it and do all the things that you needed to do. Fortunately, we've been able to go on Clubhouse, which was another avenue, another platform, sure, which allowed a lot of us in this space that was being censored to connect. In fact, I had a conversation with a gal earlier today who called to order some more product. And she said, yeah, I met you guys on Clubhouse with this Justin guy. I said, well, that's me. And she goes, oh, that was awesome. You sent us a free product to try, and it worked great, and I love it, and all that good stuff. And it was because, and then we connected the Miracle Plant podcast with Clubhouse, which allowed us to broadcast. And sometimes we'll have bigger rooms or not. And Clubhouse is not nearly as big as it was. But when it was big, it was incredible to connect and align with other thought leaders, especially in the cannabis space.
Sure.
Because between those two spots, whether it was Clubhouse or whether it was podcasting, those were really the two avenues. It was the third one you might be able to throw in is probably blogging or some type of natural listing SEO. Yeah. Other than that, there wasn't anything you could do because the powers that be in our country are censoring people that talk about a legal product, which is hemp.
I know it's been what, I mean, how many years has it been now? It's close to 90 years, and they know better. That's the crazy part. They know better now, and they're still censoring it. They just can't let it go. They just cannot let it go that we can make our own decision on this product, and it's, the truth is there, and there's some force, and I don't understand where the force. I'm not sure where it is, but I can just feel it all around me. I mean, there's constant pushback, and I know someday we're going to look back on. Let me give you one example of this, which I think you're going to find really comical, but it sort of ties back to the exercise. In the early 70s, definitely late 60s, early 70s. If you owned a gym and you said in your advertising that exercising had any health benefits, you could be shut down by the FTC for making false claims. I mean, I'm saying this right now, and you're like, no, Dan, that can't be true. Look it up. Anybody wants to see this. It was illegal to make health claims, for gyms to make health claims until like the early 70s, because there was no data to support that exercise had anything other than a cosmetic benefit. I mean, how silly is that, right? I mean, we think we're 50 years advanced, 55 years advanced, or 50 years advanced from that. And we're looking back going, that was so silly. How could those people, same thing is going to happen 50 years from now. They're going to look back and they're like, I can't believe how dumb they were back in that they were saying, oh, I don't know about this cannabis. That's not good for you. It's insane. But it happened before. It's happened many times in the past. This is no different. Someday at one point, people got ridiculed when they said that the earth revolved around the sun, not the sun revolving around the earth, right? People got killed for saying that. It's no different. Someday they're going to look back at this day and they're going to be like, I can't believe those people in the 2000s. They were whacked. They didn't know anything. They didn't believe it. It's crazy, but it's happening.
And you've been around. I mean, how long have you been in the cannabis space? I mean, we didn't even really get to
2013.
Yeah.
2013, I started my first show.
Yeah. And so, and were you doing something even before then? I remember you and Chloe were chatting, but like
I started right after, in 2013, I did a cannabis trade show in Las Vegas at the Hard Rock Convention Center. And that's where I met a lot of people in the industry right now. And then I hired Chloe to do education at a lot of our conferences. So the name of this trade show was the CWCB Expo, which you've been to, the one out in Los Angeles. I think you met Osiris there. I owned that show. Yeah. And I started that show. And then when I sold that show, that's when I started the PodConX. So yeah, that's been that was my career into the industry. That's how I got my foot in the door.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I mean, I owe a debt of gratitude to you and reaching as many people that we are going to reach and have reached, because sometimes we just have to be grateful for every person that comes in and has a beautiful story to share, and giving us the platform to share these stories. I'll forever be indebted to you for that. And you're a part of the journey, man, because it's a journey.
We're gonna someday we're gonna have a beer over this and say, yeah,
Absolutely.
It was worth the effort.
Well, and it is worth the effort when you see stories like that, because it's like, okay, you know what I mean? And sometimes, like I said, you're competitive, and I'm like, all right, let's get a million people or whatever it is that you need. But to her, it's the whole world. That's her whole world.
Yep.
There's nothing more that she could have prayed for or asked for than the health of her daughter. And we're doing it. And we're doing it one family at a time. And we'll keep doing sharing these stories and having these podcasts and doing these summits and doing whatever we possibly can do. And there's exciting news tomorrow that we're going to be breaking, and we're having Dr. William.
I can't wait for that news to get out. That's going to rock the world.
It already is. And that's what I gave her. The other one was the Boost X, which our Boost X has higher CBGA, a strain that we grow out here. And people are going to go crazy about it because we're already getting phone calls. I've had to turn the phones off while I'm talking.
Yeah, for sure. It's going
to go nuts. It's going to change that article.
How can you deny it? I mean, it was big news 2 years ago now, was it? When they said, oh, we can't close the dispensaries down because they're essential. Like, that was like, okay, now you're admitting it. All right. This right now, the next thing that this one is coming out next, they won't be able to. There's no way you can hold back the flood walls on that one. People are just going to be like, I don't care what you're saying. I need some of that.
Yeah,
and that's going to happen.
Yeah, we're seeing it this week. And I think I shared this story earlier today. And how were you on time today? I know we were going over a little bit. What do you got? Anything coming up?
You have your next person after me?
You're it. We're open after this. We're going to wrap it up on this one today. We're going to cut it a little bit short. But the article came out on Monday. So the article is out of Oregon State that CBDA and CBGA, the two hemp compounds coming from raw hemp, stop the coronavirus, which is what they studied, from penetrating the human cells. And so we knew this back in when this whole thing started, because other countries were already doing research on it and published it. And then my mom, Janet, had written an article and did a research paper herself. We published it. We were forced by a government agency to take it down or face legal repercussions, including the FDA and all that stuff. So we took it down. I left it up for all 30 days. I consulted with my attorneys and I left it up as long as I could, but we took it down because basically had to. And so we knew it. So when the article came out on Monday, I was like, yeah, whatever, dude. I've known that the whole time. I've known it the whole time. We've been telling everybody. We had Dr. Courtney on. He was talking about it, and we already had a podcast on this. And so when everyone was reaching out to me like, Justin, did you see this? Did you see this? And I'm like, yeah. I didn't even read it because I was like, whatever. I already know. I already knew. I already published. Yeah, I already know. But then when I started reading it deeper, Amos, who you know out in Texas, he said and that he was underlining CBGA. And so that was in the back of my head. So for 2 days, I didn't do anything. And obviously getting this ready was pretty consuming. And so I finally, I think yesterday, I was like, okay, I'm going to go read the darn thing. And it is published in PubMed as well. And so I read it and I was like, oh my God, they looked at CBGA and CBDA. Those are the only two compounds they researched. And that's where they're pinning everything, are on those two compounds. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a really big deal. If you're going to go find CBDA or CBGA in this planet, there's about 3 places you can find it. And I'm one of them. And the Miracle Plant is one of them. So we have to kind of batten down the hatches here and get ready for the rock and roll, which is going to be great. And if people are just taking the CBGA because they think it's keeping them safe from COVID, which it will, based on this research and what we know, and it also helps with the cytokine storm that we talked about after you get COVID, go listen to the podcast or tune in tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, because Dr. William Courtney will be joining us live from remote location in Caribbean. Who knows what chickens will be running around in the background and what kind of coverage we're going to have. But he'll be on at 10 a.m. tomorrow Pacific. You are not going to want to miss what he talks about. He already knows this. I already know this, but you don't know this, audience listening to this. And this might be one of those Joe Rogan moments. So you have 40 million people listening to it, because he is the world leading expert in raw cannabis, the leading researcher and doctor that has put in the time on it. And so we're going to talk about this article that came out, this research that came out from Oregon State. And it's going to be pretty wild, man. And it's going to be exciting that, like you said, we went from illegal to essential 2 years ago, and now people are going to be able to listen and are open to hearing, because this research was released in the United States. We're starting to see it picked up on bigger news channels and bigger media outlets. That's great. If people take the product to help them stay away from contracting COVID, perfect. But then they're going to, again, it's going to be the red pill that's like, wow, this stuff, it's working for my pain, my sleep, my stress, and all those other kinds of things. So that's what we're really excited about.
Yeah. And then although they still have to deal with the side effects of, it lowers your anxiety, it helps you sleep better, and it helps you lose weight. All those side effects they'll still have to deal with. Exactly. But they won't have to wear a mask anymore because it's gone. Poof, poof, just like that. If we had been able to use cannabis for the last 75, 80, 90 years, we wouldn't even had to go through this darn pandemic, because our bodies would have been already immune to it. But what are you going to do?
And that's the thing too, is if this article was the published articles and the research that was out at the beginning, if people would have known that and been able to know that, then they would have had healthier immune systems. There would have been less transmission. If they did catch the virus, their bodies would be more prepared based on the research to not have the cytokine storm, which is the storm that happens within your own body. Your own immune system starts attacking itself, which is where the inflammation kicks in, which is where the water retention and where the lung issues and the pneumonia and all the stuff that happens. It would have saved countless lives, and it would have helped people recover quicker. I just talked to another lady this morning who's had long haulers. She's had it since March 2020. And it's a shame that it's taken 2 years for this research to come out, but I don't have a DeLorean. I can't go back in time. I don't have 1.4 gigawatts. So I'm just going to be grateful and thankful that, of all places, Oregon State, Corvallis published this article, this research that is peer reviewed on PubMed, and people are taking notice. Americans like American research. Yep. So we're going to run with it tomorrow. We're going to have Dr. William Courtney on.
Oh, and he spoke about this. We did an episode with him on this maybe a month ago. And be ready. He is going to blow your mind. If you haven't heard him talk about this, you'll be like, of course, it makes perfect sense the way you explain it.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, 9 a.m. I'll kick everything off. 10 a.m. we are going to have Dr. William Courtney on. Again, my mom's not feeling well, so she's not probably going to be able to join us, but knowing her, she'll probably try to join us regardless, because especially the topic food and nutrition is what we'll be talking about for pillar number 3. And you will not want to miss this. And it's a one-time shot. Yeah, we'll probably put some good snippets on the Miracle Plant podcast. But if you want to watch the entire thing, the only way you can do it is by logging in tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific, or getting the VIP backstage where you buy the recordings and you get all the goodies and all that kind of stuff. That is the only other way that you'll be able to have full access to this. Of course, me being me, when we get all this great information down on tape, we're going to get it all over the world. We're already in conversations with lots of different media sources that we're going to do more for Oregon State University than probably anybody on the planet. And that's just going to be us getting this article out there. They're going to look like, why is enrollment up 5,000? But anyways, Dan, I want to thank you again for all that you do for my show, for the Miracle Plant podcast, for the communities, for the families, for the others that are in this space. You will never likely know how much impact you had. One of the guys, Russell Brunson, I'm in his mastermind, and his belief or hope is that when we leave this physical world and move on to the next chapter, he has the strong believing that we get to look back, and as a gift of our lifetime, we get to see all the ripple effects that we've had of all the people that we've touched. So I think that's going to be a good one for you, brother, to enjoy that popcorn and see all of the families and all of the impact that you've had by doing what you've done, especially just in this industry.
Well, it's only fun doing it with people. And that's why, and people that I like to do it with. And that's why I'm so happy to be part of your team. And like I said, this would be far less meaningful if I did it on my own. So being part of having a community of people to do this with, going back to what we talked about throughout this show is like team up with people. It makes life so much better.
Absolutely. Amen, brother. Well, again, thanks for joining us. I didn't realize you were such an all-American athlete. My God.
I don't know about all-American.
Is there anything left that you haven't done athletically? Is there anything left? Like curling? What is there anything you want to do?
I live really close to Canada, and I have done curling.
There you go. So you've done it all, right? There's no boxes left to check athletically, right? Or is there one?
No, there's stuff. There's still stuff. There's still stuff on my bucket list. Yeah, a lot of things. I want to take up. I don't know how to sail, so that's one of my things on my list. I want to learn how to sail.
Awesome.
I'm saving that for my 70s and 80s though.
Well, and my retirement plan, right? It's a 3-step process. Own your own boat, own your own plane, own your own island, whatever the rest of the world does, so be it. So we can go sailing like Zawataneo, Ixtapa Zawataneo at the end.
Well, I will definitely be there and you can teach me how to sail. That'll be great.
Well, someone's gonna have to teach me because I can do it. My wife, who's been on and off today, has seen me. I'm just one of those get her done kind of guys. So they'll take those little sailboats that we were out in Fiji, and sometimes I might need a little help getting back in. But anyways, it's a real treat having you on. And again, thanks for all that you've done. And I'll make sure that you guys tune in, listen wherever you do your podcasts. Look up Miracle Plant Podcast. Dan's on 95% of the time. And he helps produce the show. If you're interested in having your own podcast, reach out to Dan. He's over at PodCon. So that's PodConX.com. And he will help you get a podcast going. Do you do anything for people that isn't cannabis related that are interested in the podcast?
Not yet. No, we have enough people within our own. I mean, I've done it. We're like, as long as they're linked somewhat to cannabis, but I haven't done any non-pod. We've had a couple exercise shows that wanted to be on, but I'm like, it's not really a good fit.
Yeah. Well,
so, yeah, we're trying to stay. We're just staying in our lane.
Exactly. Well, and that's the way it's all about. And so if you're interested in, if you're in the space and you want to learn more about getting a podcast started, he is the man. I always call him Dan the Man. So Dan the Man, thanks for joining us. And we'll see you tomorrow.